July 2nd, 1863, the second day of battle at Gettysburg. Perhaps one of the more well-known events at the Battle of Gettysburg occurred on July 2nd, and that was the charge from the 20th Maine on Little Round Top. I cannot do justice to the events that occurred at Gettysburg, but what I do hope to be able to do today is add a little bit more context to a few of the events that occurred on July 2nd and show in both map and in-person video where these things happened and break down some of the realities of what people have seen in film related to July 2nd, 1863. With that, we're going to start by taking a look at a map. We'll zoom in on it, give you an overview, and then we'll take a look at annotating a version of the map. So here we can see an overview of Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and a few other states, showing Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy, Washington, D.C., and of course right now centered over southern Pennsylvania. As we zoom in on southern Pennsylvania, we'll see Gettysburg show up and Gettysburg National Military Park, which is the modern home of the battlefield. The events of July 1st, 1863 took place to the north of the town of Gettysburg. We did not do a video on July 1st related to the events of the day because I cannot remotely do justice to those events. Having grown up near Gettysburg, I should be able to, but I do not feel I can, so we didn't. To the south of town, we have the bulk of the fighting occurring here on Cemetery Ridge, which is where the Union lines were, and Seminary Ridge, where the Confederate lines were. As we zoom farther in, we can see the modern roads that now trace in some places where the lines were. If we look a little bit more to the north, the Emmitsburg Road is sort of in no man's land. Sedgwick Avenue and the Taneytown Road are what more or less run along Cemetery Ridge. West Confederate Avenue that you can see on the map here is along Seminary Ridge. Before we go to video on the ground on Little Round Top, I want to take a moment and take a look at the photo that was used under the intro music for this video. This photo is approximately 7 years old and was taken from an airplane flying over the Gettysburg battlefield. More or less center frame in the photo, you can see here the modern roads that run along Cemetery Ridge and what were the Union lines. Off a little bit out of frame is Seminary Ridge and the Confederate lines. Tracing down toward the right side of the frame is the Emmitsburg Road, which of course was more or less no man's land during the fighting. Off to the left, near the bottom of the frame, just out of picture, is the National Cemetery in Gettysburg, where the Gettysburg Address was delivered. Here, more or less in center frame, is the high water mark that becomes important when we talk about Day 3 and Pickett's charge. And toward the top of the frame here is Little Round Top, and over here is Devil's Den, both of which we're about to go look at on the ground. On the second day of battle at Gettysburg, this location here, Little Round Top, is where the flank was for the Union Army. This was among the high points on the battlefield. There's one point higher that makes a difference, not above Little Round Top, but does make a difference. You can see sort of from here. It's obstructed by trees, but over in this direction, there is a hill that had some cannon emplacements on it, where a small detachment came down from the rest of Cemetery Ridge to take that so that Lee's army could not get to it. Looking down this way, Cemetery Ridge, the rest of the Union line comes down that way and fish hooks around to form one giant cohesive unit that was easily reinforceable from any direction. Looking down the hill in this area, we're looking toward Devil's Den, one of the areas that Confederates would have charged up this hill from. Little Round Top was just recently rehabilitated, and the embattlements and the rocks and everything here are a lot closer to what they would have actually been in July of 1863. You guys are seeing this for the first time, as I am as well. Last time I was here, this was closed and looked vastly different. Still on Little Round Top, this monument marks the extreme left flank of the Union Army after Colonel Chamberlain pulled his guys up into the hook that he created, which is so famously represented in the film Gettysburg. His lines came around through here. The stone monument, center frame here, is the monument that the 20th Maine came back and placed after the battle. His lines came around to more or less the end of this stone embattlement here. The famous scene in Gettysburg, the bayonet charge, occurred in this area. They took the line that was pulled back up in that direction. Camera is now down at the point of where the 20th Maine was. They swung it down, and then the entire regiment charged down the hill towards the modern roads. That scene did happen, including the scene where Chamberlain nearly gets shot by the Confederate officer's pistol. Now, that particular scene did not happen exactly that way. He was instead missed, instead of the hammer being dropped on an empty chamber. But that did happen, and that would have occurred down in the woods somewhere in this area over here. While we were on the ground in Gettysburg, we did mention the 1993 film, Gettysburg. That movie is phenomenally accurate with respect to the history of the battle, at least in terms of the events that it depicts. There were some liberties taken with conversations and such, but as for the actual events, the film borders on documentary by reenactment. If you want to go take a look at the 20th Maine's charge from the film, we will link that down in the description. We don't want to show it here and break it down here just because we don't want to tangle with any potential copyright issues. In any case, we hope that you believe that we were able to do some justice to Little Round Top and Gettysburg with this today and the other videos in this series.